Hello and welcome on today's episode. Another exploration with my guest today on the Golden Muse show. And I'm delighted I've got here with me Andrew and Nicci Fletcher. Hello, and bonjour.
Bonjour, hello, Chrisoula.
Nicci and Andrew, they are actually based in La Belle France, but at the same time, they are celebrating something extraordinary. They're celebrating the co-creation of their online magazine, CNBC. Which stands for
Childless Not by Choice.
Fabulous. Okay, so this is an amazing stage in your life as individually, but also as a couple, Nicci and Andrew, because you have been a life-changing, circumstances through your personal sort of journey into. Having children, but things didn't go according to the plan. So but what you did, that's what I would love to highlight through this interview and our conversations, is how you as a couple, you actually, through all the challenges, through all the ups and downs, through the turmoil, through trying to figure out who you are, what's going on, how you can move forward, you turn everything around and you say, well, actually, no, we are still together and we are moving forward. But you're moving forward in a way that is absolutely, truly inspirational. And I say that from my heart because I connect with your journey, a part of it. Okay? A part of your journey, I know in a way how it must have felt for you. Not totally, because everybody's got our own ways of experiencing life. But the CNBC speaks to me personally as well, because I am one of them. So let's start a little bit with your journey. I know that you have had the chance recently to be interviewed on BBC, and people can connect with you, find out more about your story through your website, through articles, blogs, and lots of things that actually are being very creative and sharing your experiences. But if you could just tell us a little bit about your story, so our viewers and readers, because I'd like to say at this point that Nicci and Andrew, they will be part of contributing in the book of Soulful Musings that is actually due to be released in May 2018. Yay! So tell us a bit about your story, and then we're going to talk about, for those of you who are, as a couple, you are probably feeling connected with their story, with Nicci's and Andrew's story. And you may feel that you are still in that sort of situation, or you're coming out of it and you don't know how to move forward, how they can actually inspire you and support you in the next steps forward. And then with sharing their own tools and their own insights. Okay, sounds good?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, fabulous. So who is going to start?
Oh, shall I start?
Yes.
Because I'm often the creative one within the relationship. I have these wonderful ideas at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And I'm the practical one who sometimes stomps on said creative ideas at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Fabulous.
Although most of the time he's very supportive. So a little bit of our story. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for your wonderful introduction and the fact that this is going to be a celebration of what we are achieving, because that's really important to celebrate our successes. So a little bit about our story. We got married in 2005. So we were quite late in meeting each other. And before then, we'd actually had an unplanned pregnancy, which resulted in a miscarriage at about 11 weeks. So we were sort of lulled into a bit of a false sense of security that basically my body only had to smell sperm and I would fall pregnant. So although I was sort of in my late 30s, we were actually quite happy to wait until we got married and do things in the, let's say, more traditional order of things, marriage and then children. So we got married and basically nothing happened. And we went to see our GP actually fairly early on, because I had been doing something which is called charting, which is all about sort of getting to know your body so intimately that you know when you are at your most fertile. Mm-hmm. So when we saw our GP, she actually said, even though you've only been trying to conceive for 6 months, I won't tell you to go back and come back after 2 years, because we can see, I can see how knowledgeable you are, etc. And there's obviously something wrong. So we had some tests done, I was put on some medication, and again, nothing happened. And then some time moved on until we were on holiday for my 40th birthday over in the Bahamas, which was 2007, November 2007. And I woke up in screaming agony at 2 o'clock in the morning. And because I knew my body so well, I knew that I was ovulating, and I knew that the pain I was in was caused by something wrong with my left ovary. So we sort of managed to complete the holiday, went back to the GP, got referred to a gynecologist, and they diagnosed endometriosis. So I had surgery, and basically the surgeon took one look at my insides and went, "This is far, far too severe for me to deal with. Refer her to a specialist." So, I had surgery. We then had IVF because we were told we would never conceive naturally, and the IVF failed totally. I had more surgery and ended up having to go onto the pill because of controlling the pain and trying to slow down the rate of the adhesions. And at that point, which was 2013, basically, we made no decision that we were stopping trying to conceive, but basically, that was where we were at. And we had no idea how to move forward at that stage. We didn't know what to do. Yeah. You want to pick up the story?
Well, the issue was that all of our plans, even moving to France and having this house here, was predicated on having a family. Mm-hmm. And even after 2013, it didn't really sink in for a bit that we weren't going to have a family. For a period of time, which didn't help our mental state, I would say, because it's not something that we had planned for. I will say that we had considered it to a degree once Nicci was diagnosed as having stage 4 endometriosis, but we hadn't planned for the fact that we weren't going to have children.
Yeah.
I think there was still an element of hope.
Yes.
I was on the pill. I hadn't had a hysterectomy. Things could change, and I think because of that, we might have gone into denial that we were at the end of our childbearing or hoping to have children journey. Mm-hmm. And also because we hadn't made any active decisions that, okay, now we are stopping trying to conceive. We didn't know we had to move forward, let alone knowing how to move forward. Mm. So for many years, I think we were stuck in a rut.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Which makes it very hard to enjoy life, really, and really, and understand what's happening, because it's what I actually it's part of the book that we call, like movement is the best way forward. Just move forward rather than feel as if nothing else is happening around you. Because this sensation, this feeling of being at a loss, and so sort of how I could move forward when no decision is being made, or no evidence of what's next is available to you. So how did you get out of this? When you were there feeling, I don't know if I could say trapped or stuck, or this kind of. How did you manage to get out of it? What was the next step? What happened then?
Well, we were in a position where I don't think you could even say that we were surviving our situation. We were merely existing. We got up because that's what you did. We ate because that's what you did. We took our dogs for walks because that's what you did. Nothing else. And I think the biggest change was that I joined an online support group for people in women, because it's a women-only group, for people in our situation. And I didn't actually join because I felt that I needed the support. I was actually doing it to support the person who was starting it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And for a couple of weeks, I was sort of sitting there being supportive of it all, but thinking I have nothing in common with the people in this group. And then I started to think, hang on a minute, I do actually have things in common. So I started to comment on some things. And
you were reaching out. You were reaching out. Baby steps, reaching out and connecting.
Yeah, reaching out to support others, because I hadn't really got to the stage of understanding that I needed help myself.
Yes.
And then people started to reply to my comments, saying that what I was writing really resonated with them, because I wasn't just doing the hugs and kisses. I was actually tapping into some of the life coaching experience that I've got to see if I could give people proactive suggestions. I'm not going to say advice, but suggestions about their situation. And I've always been a writer. I wrote my first book when I was under 5 years old. And I think what happened was I had one of those 3 o'clock in the morning moments. And I woke Andrew up the next day. I did leave him to sleep. But when Andrew woke up the next day, I said, Andrew, I think I need to write a book about infertility and being childless, not by choice, because people are saying that my words are resonating with them so much. And then I decided that to help with the process of doing that and build a following, whilst I was writing the book, I would publish a blog. And that's when things started to really happen, because writing can be incredibly cathartic. Yes. And also there is a huge sense of purpose and fulfillment that you get when you realise that you are helping other people. And also a huge sense of, I don't know whether it's relief, but something which helps you to heal yourself if you're using your personal experiences to help other people who are in similar experiences. And that, I think, is really when we started to move forward, even though it was sort of still very bumpy at that stage. It wasn't always forward movement.
Yes, well, I can resonate with exactly what you just said, Nicci and Andrew. But at the same time, I can see the reason why that my inspiration to create the book of Soulful Musings, because we're going to have the stories and the messages and the gifts, if you like, from individual people that are coming together to help other people heal, to help other people get unstuck, to get, whatever, people will actually flick through. There will be a particular chapter that they will resonate with, and then they will connect with the people that actually contributed. And then it's up to them then what's going to do. They're going to get in touch with you or get in touch with somebody else. So
Yeah.
so that's I could see, the reason why writing is so helpful and cathartic, as you call it. It's a beautiful way of releasing and being creative and connecting with your inner self, your inner emotional self. And I would like us to come to one of the areas that is really worth exploring with you both, which is the key aspect to a healthy relationship, because that's what I like us to give as a takeaway from this interview. So within a relationship, of course, it is me, you, but also, as you call it, is also the us, right? So what would you say to the people that are actually going through some sort of, maybe not exactly the same symptoms, situation, circumstances, but they may feel that somehow they are getting, like feeling kind of apart, or they don't really get each other, or there's some sort of friction and problems around them. Instead of bringing them together, they really tear them apart. What would you say to them? How could you give them some sort of tool or a step forward?
From our point of view, the main thing that we have always had is that we have had a shared vision or a shared dream of what we wanted. Okay, it changes over time, but we've always made sure that we've talked about it, so that with the different sets of circumstances, that the changes in the dream are still the changes that we want, and we still have the same dream. Sorry, the same shared dream, not obviously not the same dream, because we've just changed it, but that we have the same dream of where we want to be or what we want to do. Obviously, things don't necessarily pan out, but so long as you have a shared outlook and viewpoint, then it helps.
Yes.
And by definition, you do need to keep revisiting it to make sure it is still the right dream, the right vision, and that it fulfills what you now require, rather than what you required when you were 20 is definitely different to what you require when you're 40. That's just a fact of life. Yes.
So this shared vision and dream came out first of all because I could see Nicci's temptation and creative sort of path, if you like. So Nicci, you were into writing, but also I could see the practical and logical side coming from Andrew. We say, okay, how we can make that more of a reality. Yes. So that's how you coming together then, and then you say, okay, what we're going to do next, and then the magazine came together, the CNBC Magazine came together, and then that's your shared vision, right? So that's what I love to concentrate on, that although you've been through so much, it's fascinating how you manage in a good way, that you actually now you say, what can we do to bring our own experiences and our own grief and sadness, but also excitement and joy, so other people can feel motivated and feel back, come back again and celebrate life.
Yes, that's right. And I think that for me, one of the driving factors of having a vision for the future is in some way fulfilling my personal need to create a legacy. Because, parents from this aspect actually have it quite easy, if you like, because they have created a natural legacy in the fact that their genes are being
passed on to the next generation.
And of course, when you don't have children, that's not possible. And both my parents were only children, so I have no nieces and nephews. My half brothers and sisters, they have no children. So on multiple levels, we are the end of the line. And I found that incredibly sad. So I wanted to find some way of creating a legacy. And being a legacy which had an impact on more than a few of our friends and family around us who would remember us fondly afterwards. So we were heavily involved last year in something called World Childless Week. And the sense of support and community during that week was absolutely brilliant. It's nothing that either of us had experienced in the previous 4 or 5 years that we had been identifying ourselves as being childless not by choice. And I woke up on the third day, or I went to bed rather on the third day, the Wednesday, thinking, this is absolutely wonderful. This is helping so many people. However, there are 52 weeks in the year and World Childless Week is only 1 week. How can we ensure that this brilliant sense of community and support is carried forward throughout the rest of the year? And I got one of my 3 o'clock in the morning flashes of inspiration.
That's where they come, don't they?
That's when they come. And it was a case of,
And she did wake me up.
I'm sorry. Normally I'm very good.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. Okay.
But yes, I thought, well, I've always been a writer. I love writing. We had thought a few years ago that we might produce a magazine for people with infertility issues and endometriosis, but the time just wasn't right for us for a number of reasons. And I had a wonderful experience several years ago when I was commissioned to do a series of articles for the Writing magazine, and I loved that whole experience. So, running a magazine was definitely on the cards for me. And as I say, 3 o'clock in the morning on the Thursday of World Childless Week last year, I woke up and it was a case of we need to run a magazine, and we announced it to the world. I think it was about 3 weeks later, maybe 5 weeks later, and so that was the 1st of November. I think we announced it, and we published the first issue on the 1st of December.
Congratulations! Congratulations! Fabulous, fabulous. Well, I would like to go back, if I may. I'd like to go back to what helps you as a couple to really move forward with any sort of challenges. And I know that I'm going to be asking Nicci to bring her own sort of life coaching skills here and techniques. So something that you have put into place and it has worked for you. That's what I would love to bring out there, because it's not like in theory we read in a book and say, oh, that sounds good. Maybe one day. But then in your case, you have used it.
Oh, yes.
Several times.
Several times.
And we still use it.
And we still use it because this shared vision bit only helps if you don't happen to be at loggerheads over things. Quite often in relationships, I'll use this particular example. There are often financial issues which get between the two of you. This is an example, or a hypothetical example. Nicci's creative ideas are all well and good, but they cost money to put into place. There is the practical issue that we haven't got the money, but Nicci wants the creative ideas. So you have that friction.
Yes.
And
that's a good example, by the way, Andrew. Yes.
So we were having financial issues some years ago, and a friend of ours happened to be a relationship coach. And she was actually doing her qualification for it. She was doing her master's in it, so she needed people to practice on. And you know, I'm an ex-soldier, and it's all a bit touchy-feely, if you ask me.
And you represent that male, percentage that men tend to be like that. Bless you, but you tend to be like that. So carry on, Andrew. Yes.
So anyway, she asked if she could, try, use us as guinea pigs to try out some of these techniques, so that she could get her hours. So we went there, and she said, so that we could practice on something real. Well, what problems you got at the moment? We said, blah 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 blah. And she said, well, there's this big one, a big technique that we can use, and it's called problem out in front. So what she did, and
I have a prop.
She has a prop.
We were given a cushion. And we were sitting on the sofa before we started this, and we were probably sort of about that far away from each other. Yeah. So the first thing that this friend of ours said is the cushion represents your financial situation. Where is it? At which point I put my arm over here and I dropped it on the floor behind. Because it's out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to know about it. So we explored that for a few minutes, and then she said, right, okay, Nicci, go and get the cushion again. And she said, I want you to hold the cushion between the two of you. So we did, like this.
Yeah.
And she said, what happens is that the issue, the financial issue, is coming between you. You're working, you're forgetting that you're in this together. I would say something, and Andrew would disagree with me. But rather than using a sort of a neutral voice, there might be some frustration or aggression or something, in the tone of his voice, which then escalates. Yeah. So we had this cushion between us, and we were discussing how we felt about our financial situation. And you could hear in the tone of our voice that we were very frustrated, and quite often that frustration or anger was directed at the other person. And then she said, what we'll do is we'll put the problem out in front. So we put it down on the floor in front of us.
And she went up.
At that point, and she said she had never seen a couple do this so dramatically. Because did you see that we moved closer together? Well, on this occasion when we were doing it, we not only moved together, but we wrapped our hands around each other, so we were holding them. And my leg went over Andrew's knee, and he put his other hand on my leg, and we were like that together. And she said she had never seen such a dramatic example of a couple coming together physically when the problem between them had been put out in front. And then we started to discuss our finances. And the language that we used and the tone of our voice was totally different. Right. It was that powerful. And every time, it doesn't have to be a cushion. We quite often discuss things when we are walking along the canal. And on one day we were discussing things, and I sort of noticed that the language, again, the tone of our voice was getting a bit fractious. And I was holding, I've got my handbag strapped across me. So I took my handbag off, and we held it together, and then we put it out in front of us, linked arms, and then our tone of voice, our words just dramatically changed. And it's such a simple technique and so powerful.
And I'm not touchy-feely, and it works.
There you go. There you go. That's what I would love to bring in. You know, this kind of tools and takeaways that people can bring into their everyday life, depending where they are and depending how they can get that kind of support. That actually, even to the point that actually I'm not on my own here. Somebody else has gone through this, and then they can resonate with your story and what you've been through as a couple as well. Now. I'm very much aware that your magazine is moving forward, is progressing, and then you are enjoying that this new, I would call it reinvention, on an individual basis, but also as a couple, because you have a new sort of, it's a new beginning. And every new beginning, there's a lot of hope in it, and within the new beginning, it requires you to trust, and then that brings that connection between you even more. You need to trust each other. You trust that new beginning. So where are you now with the magazine? And would you like to share, of course, the website address and how people can connect with you, so.
Well, where are we? We produced our first subscribed for issue on the 8th of January, and then had all sorts of interesting website issues because we changed our website to the HTTPS, and the migration of the new IP address didn't work for about 3 weeks. So we had to buy ourselves a totally new domain name
and rebuild
a website and get a totally new host.
But all of that is behind us.
All of that is now behind us. Yes, and it all works. So the magazine is now at the CNBC Magazine.net. And we produce our second subscribe for issue on the 12th of March. 12th of March.
Yeah. Basically, it's every other month, so 6 issues a year.
Okay.
It's a mixture of written articles and also, because it's online, video interviews. We've got some interviews from people who are holistic practitioners of some form or another. So we've got a lovely lady called Rosalind Bubb who does a series of tap-along videos using emotional freedom technique to help deal with the emotional pain and trauma of being CNBC.
Very effective, yes. I use it myself. It's very effective. Brilliant.
It's wonderful. We've got somebody doing mindfulness meditation. We've got coaches from different sort of aspects of coaching who are helping. We've got some of the big names in the CNBC community, such as Jodie Day, who runs an organisation called Gateway Women. We've got a representative from More to Life, who is the More to Life is a branch of the Fertility UK charity.
Yes.
So we've got people from all aspects of the CNBC community, and the magazine is written primarily by people who are CNBC, who are giving their time and effort and expertise to help the community. So it's not, we don't have professional paid for journalists writing this. We've got people who are writing it from their own personal experience, and that makes it a very powerful magazine, I believe.
Yes, absolutely.
We also do try and have a bit of fun.
Yes.
So we
just a bit, yes.
Just a bit. So we've instigated Childless Island discs, which is obviously a play on Desert Island discs, but so we have a bit of fun with that, and rather than just being all music, it includes books and films, and you have your two luxuries. And so far, everybody's cheated.
We've all cheated on the luxuries. But it's just that you sometimes need that sort of light and shade. So yes, there is a lot to do with how to overcome some of the challenges that we find. However, there is still enjoyment to be found in our lives as well. So it's a celebration of that, and reminding people that it is. So I think we had a little video clip that we found on YouTube about a parrot who dances to Elvis songs.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely hysterical. Nothing at all to do with being childless not by choice. However, as I say, it just gives that little bit of light and shade, which is important.
Because otherwise it's a very heavy subject.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it is about how we can turn the heavy, dark and pain that we experience in our lives, how we can turn that into enriching ourselves and other people's lives. I guess that's what it's all about. Life can get tough, can get difficult, can get very, very tricky. And then there's lots of different pathways that you may end up, not knowing where, how, whatever. But how can you actually rediscover where you are and what you want to do? I think that's the mastery here, isn't it? And then when in your case you have gone through a lot, but actually you have come out of it with so much I would call it richness, the wisdom. That's what I call it by richness, that you could actually use it in your life together, but also enriching other people's lives through the work you do, through the magazine. So that's really beautiful.
That's right. Thank you. And in terms of where we go in the future, I am going to be involved in something called Fertility Fest, which happens at the beginning of May 2018 in London. I'm going to be on stage doing my first ever Pecha Kucha presentation. And also it's going to be about being CNBC, and I've talked about it on the radio and on videos, and I've written about it, but I've never been on stage doing that. So that's
another step up for you. Yes, brilliant.
Another step up. We've done. We did. Was it four BBC radio show interviews in 3 weeks in January, which was a little bit of a shock to the system.
I know. Okay, I could tell. Yes.
We weren't quite expecting that, but I think that this is the magazine has really captured people's imagination because it's the world's first magazine of its kind. So that's captured a lot of people's imagination, and so far, everybody who interviewed us said that their switchboard and their sort of text system, etc., the questions and comments went crazy, and we've been asked to go back again later in the year because being childless or childless not by choice is a subject that they want to revisit, which I think is important. People are starting to talk about it now, which is good. And part of what we want to do is banish the taboo that there has been.
The stigma about it.
And the stigma. The fact that people suffer in silence, thinking that they're the only people who are going through it and that the rest of the world doesn't understand. So, a lot of what we want to do in the future is all about developing that support within the community, whilst raising awareness outside the community as well, to make life better for all of us.
Well, sorry, carry on there, Andrew. Sorry.
No, and I'm there to put the bloke's point of view. That's
Yes, we do need both male and female perspective in everything, because that's how life, society, community, that's how we function, that's how we work. The male and female need to come together, and there are lots of better ways, healthier ways, more intimate ways to really express ourselves. Not being actually, I don't like the idea of the isolation that people may feel if they have already, tried to conceive and for different reasons they couldn't, or they tried to.
It's one of the reasons that we promote ourselves when we promote the magazine. It is Nicci and Andrew Fletcher. It isn't Nicci Fletcher.
Yeah.
It's Nicci and Andrew, because there are very few men that comment, talk, or whatever about being childless not by choice. And if there are X number of women, in general terms, this is very general, there are equally X number of men that go along with that. And they are the unheard portion of the CNBC community, because quite often it's about infertility. Now, there are men who are infertile, but the statistics are few and far between because blokes don't talk about that sort of thing. More women talk about it, so it's more geared towards the female audience. But actually, the men also need to have an input and a hearing, should we say.
And there is also far more research into being childless as a woman rather than being childless as a man, because when you're doing research into the effects on women, you are fairly sort of safe in the assumption that when you talk to women who are in their mid to late 50s, that they are no longer going to have children, biological children. Whereas men, of course, can be a biological father much later. And we're actually interviewing sometime, I hope next week, somebody who is a man who is active in doing more research into the male aspects of being childless and raising awareness from that point of view, because it is something which is unfortunately tends to be missed quite a lot.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it is time. We are in 21st century. It is time to open up more and speak up more and own our own feelings and our circumstances and experiences, and by doing so, we actually giving permission to other people, male or female, to do the same thing. And we all need that kind of nudge. We all need that kind of come on, you can do this. If I did it, you can do this too. So I guess that's what we are here for. We are leading the way, and I know it's not always easy, but it is actually, once you start and you put one step after the other, things are falling into place. And then this is the expression I like to use. We are actually following the crumbs. What do you call it? Following the I can't remember the word now. So, but do you know what I mean? Like once you step, you get into that, then you say yes to it, and then something else comes up, and then something else.
You're open to the opportunities, and it's much I think that when you find that you are on your right path.
That's it. Sorry, the breadcrumbs. That's what I was saying.
The breadcrumbs.
You follow the breadcrumbs. That's it. I couldn't remember the word.
And I think that once you are on the right path and you're following the right breadcrumbs, there are more breadcrumbs to follow. And the universe puts opportunities in your way for you once you have accepted that once you realise that you're on your right path. Because when I started the blog 3 years ago, we had none of the media attention, etc., that we're getting now. Because it wasn't the right thing for me to do. And
you were in a healing process back then. Really, you were in a healing process.
That's right.
That's what the blog. That was the platform, the way forward for you. That you were healing, but you didn't realize actually you were healing. That's the other thing.
Exactly.
Which is beautiful, very beautiful. So,
and I think once you start, not only do you have the breadcrumbs, but once you start on these things, particularly being proactive in your healing, it then becomes a snowball effect. And you feel a little tiny bit better. And because you're feeling a bit better, you do something else which might help you to feel better. And then it does make you feel better, which continues this snowball effect. And we look back to where we were sort of a year ago, and we can hardly believe that we are the same people. Because of what's happened, because we've now got that momentum and things, which is brilliant.
And keep the momentum going. I know you will. Beautiful work from both of you. Thank you, Nicci, for coming here on the Golden Muse Show. Thank you for sharing your story and everything that you bring into inspiring and leading women, embracing more of our own sort of authentic selves. And equally for you, Andrew, because we really need men like you, that you're stepping up and you inspire other men to say it's okay to be okay, to own your feelings. You know what I mean? It is really important. And within the book of Soulful Musings, there is a chapter dedicated to masculinity and authenticity and integrity. So that's something that we could see how men can actually evolve along with women, and we are together. We can have more fun.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you both, and I'm sure we will be in touch to find out more about how the magazine, the CNBC Magazine, is progressing. Wishing you all the best, and of course, all of us, coming together and creating the book of Soulful Musings. I'm really excited about that too. So lots of love to you both.
And to you.
Love that to you, and thank you so much for inviting us to be interviewed on this and also to be involved in the book. We're very excited about that.
Fantastic. Okay. So I would say au revoir.
Au revoir. À bientôt.
À bientôt.